Blessed good morning and good day to everyone from the Caribbean and around the rest of the world. Thank you for being on the call. My name is Maureen Brown and I'm from Barbados. I am your host today. Just a reminder of why we are here. Our founder, Dr. Ruja, has said we are learning today so we can lead tomorrow. What is One Academy? One Academy is an innovative e-learning platform covering a broad range of financial topics, including trading, the stock exchange, cryptocurrency, financial analysis, asset management, and more. Our mission is to provide our students with the guidance and educational materials they need to achieve financial literacy. One Academy was developed by finance experts and academics. It is highly structured and easy to understand. You learn at your own pace and can be part of the future of global finance. Since the start of last week, we have adopted a new format of presenting One Academy. We will be presenting level 1, and our intention is to give you a unique sense of understanding of straightforward facts that you can use immediately to enhance your daily lives as well as promote our core product, One Academy. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and they will be answered by our presenters. You know we want this to be an interactive exercise, so please remember to put your comments or your questions in the chat box. We will allow 1 or 2 contributions at the end of the discussion. Again, I'd like to encourage you to take copious notes. For those of you who have not been certified at level 1, this is an opportunity to capture it in point form and do so. This morning, our new format, as you know, for those of you who have been on the call all last week, it will be a discussion with 2 presenters. This morning, I will now hand over the call to Dr. Larry Pereira. Gentlemen, Larry, call is over to you. Dr. Pereira, are you there?
Good morning, Maureen, and how are you this morning?
I'm well.
All right. Good morning to all One Academites, wherever you are, whether in the Caribbean or further afield. Good morning or good day to you, or even good afternoon to you. It is indeed a pleasure. Of course, it's Monday, the 14th of May, 2018. Of course, time is moving very, very quickly. Of course, before we continue, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Alvin Morton and Mr. Dwayne Kiddies. Good morning to you, gentlemen. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Professor Pereira. Good morning to the fellow One Academites joining us, or good afternoon, depending on the part of the world that you currently reside in. It's a privilege, humbling honor to be on this call, and looking forward to it this morning.
Absolutely. You know what, before we go into this morning's discussion, what we will be doing this morning, What Academites, is we will be doing a recap of some of the ideas and the information that was shared for the last couple of days last week, so that for those who are now joining us and for those who may have missed a few of the pointers, we are going to review some of that information. Dr. A, this morning, it seems that the price of gold is now $13.20. And of course, the price of oil still hovering over $70. Bitcoin is just over 8,389. My observation from, understanding some of the financial matters going on, whenever you see the price of gold going up, it means that there is a weakness in the US and even the euro currency.
That is correct, Professor P. And for those of us who may have taken the opportunity to have gone through the hidden secrets of money, we would know that gold for a long time now has been the means by which accounting of the fiat currency, and particularly the US dollar, is done. So that for those of us who appreciate from presentations and from our own research that a currency that is backed by nothing, or as was placed in one of the chat rooms towards the middle of last week, we know that the US dollar is in fact backed by oil, based on a deal that was struck between the then Secretary of State Henry Kissinger on a visit that he made to I believe, Saudi Arabia in an attempt to treat with the oil embargo that would have been effected by OPEC at the time. Of course, we are seeing that a number of countries are, as France did, beginning to call the US out on the millions, billions perhaps, of US dollars that are in circulation, for which there isn't the equivalent capability or backing to support the amount of US currency that is in circulation. So these are interesting times, and these calls are intended to enlighten us and empower us accordingly.
Absolutely. Of course, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge also on the call, Mr. Dwayne Kiddies. Good morning to you. Yeah, are you close to your mic, sir? How are you this morning, on this fine Monday morning?
Hi, pleasant morning, Larry. Close to my mic. Good morning, Dr. Morton, and all the One Academites this morning. How are you?
Well, I am super fabulous. You know, knowing that you're on the call, I am absolutely super fabulous. So, you know, this morning, before we move into the some of the things we would have discussed last week, you know, we're seeing today, of course, playing out of as well. Whenever you see precious metals like gold and silver rise, we know that the fiat currency like the US and the euro, but more in particular, the US today is experiencing some notable weakness. Of course, if you're a trader, you would obviously want to exploit that, and that's where financial intelligence comes into play. And it's good to be on these calls so that we can all explore. And this new format is to help us to exchange ideas. I'm sure you'd fully agree with that, Mr. Kiddies.
Indeed, Larry, we understand that basically things work in a reversal. We understand that when the precious metals are up, we know that the fiat currency is down or in trouble. So it's a given. It's a given. And by now, I think each and every One Academy should really understand this concept, because we have been reiterating this since the inception of the One Academy, I believe, and since I came on board between last year, October, to now. So it's a given.
Absolutely. So now it's just about 7 minutes after the hour, and we want to get into the meat of today's discussion. We covered quite a lot of information last week, and I wanted to take the liberty of recapping some of the information as it relates to what we can do with some of the information. We talked a lot about reducing expenditure. I'm sure many of you who have been listening attentively on the call, we talked a lot about, reducing expenditure. And one of the ways in which you can actually reduce expenditure is exactly what you see on the screen. By starting the process of cooking your own food, if you are actually still working and you have to get up very early, of course, we understand that it is very challenging, but sometimes it might be very much wiser to plan ahead of time, especially on a weekend, where you can actually, do some extra cooking, because it will help your pocket in the long run. So we spent a lot of time last week talking about the importance of cooking your own food. These are some of the ideas that came out as it relates to cooking your own food. Of course, you want to cook a little extra. Yesterday was Sunday. I know it was Mother's Day. Many persons would have actually celebrated with their family and so on. And I trust that you had a fabulous time with your family. So over the weekend, especially on a Sunday, you want to cook a little extra for at least Monday to Wednesday minimum. Of course, if you cook your food Monday to Friday, if you're working, hats off to you. If you generally don't, because you're always busy, because we're always busy these days, what is going to happen is if you don't plan ahead of time, you will find yourself spending more. And of course, if you're spending more and you're dealing with trading time for money, which is considered linear income, you would find yourself in a situation where when you get paid, you're going to have less disposable income. And that is very important. Now, I just want to challenge this disposable income, because many persons say that they don't have much more money to do things. Let me give you an idea. And I wanted to equate it in US dollars simply because we have people from all over the region. So I'm just giving you just a little idea of, let's say if you started cooking your own meals, what it can mean for you on a monthly basis. Let's say on an average, you spend roughly $25 US per week. Obviously, it's going to be more. I'm just challenging you that if you spend $100 US a week, in 1 month, you probably would have spent $100 US. All right. That can buy 10 pounds of rice, beans, chicken, or whatever. If you're a vegetarian, of course, there may be a few vegetarians on this call. You can mix and match those things. I'm stating to you that by looking at your finances a little more seriously, you definitely will be able now to get back a better mileage as it relates to cooking your own food. Cooking your own food always has some notable advantages. All right. And that's just the bare minimum. Of course, many of us will spend more. Now, I'm not saying that you should cook your food every day and maybe not buy food from time to time. Of course, you do deserve the luxury to be able to do that. But I believe that you should have a choice when you do it, rather than maybe you have no choice because you had no time and you just have to grab things. Because most of us, if we're grabbing things, you're going to have to grab breakfast. You're going to probably get snacks along the way. You're going to deal with lunch. You're probably going to buy things in the afternoon. So more than a quarter, or 35, even some cases, percent of your disposable income sometimes is actually used towards the spending. So if you can cut back on buying food every day, you most certainly will have a little disposable income, which you can actually use for investment purposes. All right. So on the average, really, you can be spending a minimum, this is just a bare minimum of over $1,200 US a year. And I think that's really important to note, that this same money that we somehow could not have found just by tweeting our behavior towards the buying of food and taking a little extra time in the morning or planning a little more on the weekends can put money back into your pockets. So working with what you have, this is a working example of how you can do it. It's very important. Just some simple ideas that you can use. Plan ahead of time over the weekend, and you would find yourself in a better, more favorable position. And not to mention, you would find yourself in a situation where you will have more disposable income. But guess what? If you cook your own foods, you would find yourself eating healthier rather than eating foods that you're just not sure of and could create a lot of problems. So I'm trusting that many of us would have seen the benefits of that. Habits that will make you broke, like after work limes with too many so-called friends, smoking, drinking, too much alcohol, some of those other activities that we like to sustain ourselves into believing, because most of our human attributes are based on the feel-good status. Yes, you can do maybe some of those things, like maybe after work limes at times with some of your friends because you may want to do it, but you have to budget that in and factor that in. Because if you're drinking with people and just doing a lot of bad habits and encouraging that type of behavior, you are going to find yourself between a rock and a hard place. Many persons tend to be wrapped up too many times in work politics, and we try to please other people by being, going with the crowd. But I'm telling you, if you continue to move with the crowd or follow the crowd, you are going to be broke, and you are not going to be in a very controlling position. So while you do have to be on a job and save time and execute time in terms of going to your job and doing what needs to be done, you can tweak some components of your life. It takes roughly 30 days to form a new habit. And if you take time to form these new habits, they are going to serve you well. Dr. Alvin Morton and Mr. Dwayne Cadiz, I would have just indicated some of the basics as it relates to what we would have discussed in a more visual and a more practical way. Any other pointers, sir, that you would want to add at this point in time? Let's keep our comments to at least maximum 2 minutes.
Okay, Larry, I would like to go first on this occasion. Just as a matter of management, we talk about managing the money, right? We can also manage our time. I was talking to a friend just the other day, and I was asking him, well, what is the free time you have? He said he has no time. He has to pick up his wife. He has to pick up his son, do this, do that. But how much time do you spend on Facebook? He says his Facebook account has been canceled. How much time do you spend on WhatsApp? You say probably all day. I say, and how many of those conversations are benefiting you financially? 95% are not. So if we just utilize some of our free time and take that and put that into something that could be earning us something, then definitely we'll be changing the game incrementally.
That is very important, Dwayne, because being on WhatsApp, I didn't factor that in because I know we were going to have that conversation. Many of us spend too much time on these types of social medias. As Jim Rohn rightfully said, we major in minor things. We spend too much time on activities that are not practically beneficial to us. Alvin Morton, your contributions to this discussion this morning, sir. I'm sure you would have some other components that you'd want to add as well. I know you're an early riser.
Well, that is true. I have just gotten to the office. I'm about to open up to allow some of my other colleagues to get in. But just to endorse and to revisit some of what was already said, we must recognize that the 1200 US that you have articulated there is easily a starter trader or possibly even some component or some significant contribution to the pro trader package. And that's just to put it in one academy and one life terms. So in many cases, when we are confronted with persons who, as an objection, when we do a presentation, would say, well, look, I really don't have the funding to purchase any of these things. Here is perhaps yet a practical example that we can offer. We
Okay, I think Alvin may have been out of the Wi-Fi connection. He'll probably join the conversation as we continue. And of course, Clifton Tillipsing says that the 5 levels of the One Academy knowledge, very, very important. And it's also the same with our time. Dwayne had said that we need to manage our time a little more effectively if we cut out those habits that don't add value or take away from being productive. And that's very important because many of us during the day engage in non-productive activity that are not inconsistent with what we need to accomplish. And we need to train ourselves to manage our time more effectively because everyone has 24 hours in a day, but yet you find other people are more successful than others simply because of these habits. And that's very important to know. Another thing we talked about is the importance of growing your own food. It is important that everyone on this call understand the importance of food production. Because at the end of the day, it's not about only saving money. There is a certain holistic benefit that you will get from growing your own food. Now, in case of, let's say, something should happen in the economy and governments freeze your bank accounts and you can't get funds or you are not in a position where you can buy food, it is always a wiser choice, One Academites, to at least start the process of planting your own food because it's going to serve you well. Now, some of the noticeable benefits of planting your own food is we can actually utilize the space that we have. Many of us may not have acreage, but if you still live somewhere, which I believe everybody does, and you have a roof over your head, you may have a small plot that you can actually plant, or you can utilize maybe a garage. You can make a grow box. You could even use these plastic 2-liter bottles and recycle for this activity and thereby save the planet of some unnecessary non-biodegradable material because plastic is non-biodegradable. And this can be used to produce short crops. You can, start your lettuce, your tomatoes, your celery, your chives. Well, I say pimento because it's in Trinidad, we use that. But of course, if you use other things like small types of peppers wherever in the world you are, you can definitely start something. Those are short crops. You can actually don't have to grow it from seeds. You can just go to the agricultural shop and get those small seed plants and put them in those utensils. Okay, you can actually acquire banana and plantain plants. So if you have a small plot somewhere in where you live, and these are types of plants that require little or no maintenance and can also yield long-term food. And the savings are huge. Not to mention the fact that, as Dr. Elizabeth Johnson would have said it last week, that there's a certain level of health benefits of being around things that are green and living. It also helps to eliminate some of the stresses that sometimes we have. We're too much glued to technology. We're on the tablet all the time. We're on the phone. We're on the laptop. We're watching too much TV. So it's really important that this also has some unique kind of benefits as well. So having the plantain tree, of course, many of us who live in the Caribbean knows what a plantain tree looks like. And of course, this is an example of a dasheen plant. Those are things that you can actually plant around your house and create a nice little kitchen garden. It's very important. And I believe, because that's the school of thought I came from, that planting your own food, from my grandfather, seeing him do that, and my grandmother, my grandparents in particular, I understood the importance of being able to do that. I think we've become too so-called sophisticated, so we believe that we shouldn't dirty our hands, but trust me, it is going to serve you in a far better context if you engage in this process. I want to show you a little example of what a simple grow box is. This is a 2-liter bottle. Most people drink soft drinks. I would strongly advise you to cut down on the soft drinks, but if you still like it, you can use this. Instead of putting this in your garbage, you can cut the top of them and you can put some soil into it, get some compost, and you can start the process of growing your own food. It does not require large acreages. It does not require a large amounts of time either, but yet you can practically benefit from some of these components. Look at this. You know, these 5-liter bottles that you would get in PriceSmart or some of the major supermarkets. Instead of throwing it away, you can actually use it and harness and get freshly grown lettuce and tomatoes and, you know, things that you use regularly in your kitchen. It could significantly save you not only a lot of time in terms of going to these supermarkets to get these items, but it's definitely going to work for you in a positive light. So there are numerous ways in which you can actually do this. And Dwayne says that indigenous food is also safe and more beneficial for us, absolutely, because it has less chemicals. I think the reason why many of us are so-called crazy in our heads these days is because we eat too much foods that are laced with chemicals. That's another discussion, folks. We'll probably talk about that sometime. And of course, it's amazing how much we have and do not see, according to Maureen Brown out of Barbados. And that is very important. So this is another example of how you can, in fact, work with what you have. Many people believe that we have to reach at a particular point to do something. Absolutely not. You need to start where you are now, work with what you have. And if you begin this process, start developing this habit in the next 60 and 90 days, you would find yourself not only yourself benefiting tremendously from this activity, but your family can also benefit greatly. And this actually helps in family time. A lot of social problems that are developing simply because we are never home. Work with some of the things that we have and create now a situation that can work really positively in your effect. Another thing we spoke about is reducing consumer debt, which is very important because at the end of the day, we have to manage what we have. So you need to operate within what you're actually earning. If you're spending what you don't have, you are doing what all governments do. You are creating a deficit spending situation. And when you create deficit spending, you're going to always be in a situation of always borrowing and always having to pay back. And in most cases, if you're dealing with situations like that, it's like a wheel, it's like a treadmill. It's like it's going round and round all the time, and we don't seem to know the end. And sometimes we wreck our minds and we get frustrated. Because I'll tell you this, when you are in a financial, I have to say, challenge, it brings out the worst of your behavior as a human being. One of the major problems in the world today and in relationships today is money. Whether we want to admit that fact or not, let's be realistic to this. If something changes financially right now that affects you, that you can't pay your bills, you can't go to the supermarket, it does something to you psychologically. So all of these things are in fact holistically interrelated to help us to be able to be mindful. And we have to be wiser now. We cannot afford to be following the crowd. We talk a lot about that even in the One Academy manuals. Do not follow the crowd, even in the trading component. But in the real world, you have to become a little different, because I'll tell you something. Every single one of us have 186,400 seconds in a day. You can get more income, but you cannot get more time. That is the only thing that you use every day and you cannot top up on your own. So every day it's resetting. My question to you is this: if you continue to squander your time, you are going to see the manifestation of that, not in the way in which you would want to. And it's very important to understand how we treat our time with some more respect. Of course, our diamond consultant, Ivan Mark, he spoke extensively last week as it relates to paying off your mortgage in less than 15 years. We talked a little bit about amortization. Of course, you can find more of that in your One Academy training, whereby banks or financial institutions, depending, not all of them, if you're not careful, that's why you have to be mindful when you're shopping around. What are the benefits of having a mortgage? Some of them may tell you they're probably not going to charge you for paying, but many financial institutions may possibly penalize you if you try to pay off your mortgage quicker. But in simplicity terms, it makes more sense for you to pay off your mortgage sooner than later, because you really don't want to go into too much debt. All right. At least 25% down payment for the purchasing of a house is very important, because it helps to spread around your risk. And of course, your overall monthly payments are less, and means that your payback terms are a bit more manageable. So the 10% dilemma that many of us tend to use is the bare minimum. If you can't have 25% down payment for the payment of your house, you really can't afford it at this point in time. And you may need to continue to find creative ways, as we already started, in terms of how you can begin that process. Avoid going into excessive debt like consumer debt. Hire purchase is a killer, because hire purchase gives you the this false sense of security that you're buying something and you're paying really manageable amounts per week or per fortnight or per month. But at the end of the day, when you finish pay off for that item, whether it be a stove, fridge, or whatnot, you're actually paying for 2, sometimes 3 times the amount. So you have to manage that. There are going to be times you might have to find yourself in that position. But if you do engage in hire purchase arrangements, the quicker you pay it off, like 3 months for cash or 6 months or whatnot, you need to set some goals in place whereby you can do that. And if you cut back on your eating habits, cut back on your liming habits, cut back on your bad habits, you definitely can deal with those situations far better. Of course, it's important to keep 6 to 8 months of cash savings for emergencies. And when I say cash, it should be really 6 months of the income that you're used to living off on a regular basis in terms of that 6 to 8 month period. If you do not have a minimum of 6 months of what you're used to living on in the next 6 to 8 months, that you should somehow find yourself in a situation where you may lose your job or something may happen to you, you might find yourself in a rock and a hard place. I think almost everyone, or I think majority of the people, would have had challenges with this, even us One Academites on the call. But I'm sharing this with you to help you to understand that if you don't have 6 to 8 months of saved income, cash in hand, you will find yourself in some other situations, because life happens. There are things that sometimes you don't plan, but happens anyway. Family member gets sick, you get sick, something happens that you have to dip into your savings that may really cause some challenges, all right? And you sometimes don't have any money. You wake up one morning and you you open up your bonnet and you go to check your car and you realize that your battery is not starting. There's so many things that happen that are just full of surprises. And that's just what life is. It's just full of a number of surprises. And that's something that we need to be mindful of. Before I go into some of the details here with our Black Diamond, Mr. Staffan Liback, there was a fabulous call yesterday. I was at 9 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. For those who were on the call, tremendous information. I want to spend the balance of the next 10 minutes really to really reiterate some of the important points that our Black Diamond spoke about. But before I do that, I just want to welcome again your comments. Dwayne, Alvin, I don't know if you're back on the call yet. Whichever is on, you can
Yes,
unmute your mic.
yeah, I'm here, Larry.
Right. So, you know, we would have discussed a lot of things this morning as it relates to how we can deal with our finances in a practical way.
Yes, sir. I am one of the living examples of that. In terms of the example there with the debt servicing and all of that. And I know that most of us on the call this morning are really trying to transition from a place where we do not have those 9 months liquid cash to be able to bail ourselves out. And we are transitioning to the place now where we're trying to understand what we need to do incrementally to get there. And I'd just like to encourage everyone, please don't be overwhelmed. I really went through a period of being overwhelmed recently. And it doesn't benefit you, it doesn't put you in a good place. Just take it in stride, take it day by day. God gives us each day, one day at a time, to deal with stuff. So let's take it, and the time that we have within those 24 hours, let's just utilize it to be able to make strides incrementally. And within a month's time, you're going to see progress. You just have to be resilient and move forward, because we are all learning for profit. And it doesn't mean that you are going to be on your A game at all times, but with consistency over time, you'll get better. According to Jim Rohn, Sinaloa, safety in numbers, the law of averages will work for you.
Absolutely. Well said, Dwayne. Of course, Alvin said that you must start where you are and with what you have. That's the bottom line. Don't wait for the proverbial better day. It sometimes never comes. You have to start now, take action, and make it happen. Of course, moving along tonight, yesterday, actually, we had the opportunity with Mr. King James to have interviewed Mr. Staffan Liback, a black diamond who is now based in Malaysia. And is amazing. His mindset is truly amazing. And yesterday we had the opportunity to experience some of that type of information on the mentorship call. All right. It was truly an amazing call. And I just want to wrap up this morning with some really golden nuggets that was said that I wanted to encapsulate on this morning's call. And some of the key important points that Staffan Liback talked about is the importance of setting a plan or having a goal. Most of us go through life being told what to do. We've been told when to get up in the morning because we have to go to work. We have to do things. So we are already in that mode of thinking about, not really thinking on our own. We are just acting out based on what our schedule will dictate to us. Of course, I'm going to have to run through this, but we can always go through more of this over the week. Many of us don't know that they don't know. Before you being part of the One Academy, you just didn't know that you didn't know. And we have to recognize that the people that we are in communication with, or the people that we need to share this information urgently with, all right, they don't know that they don't know. So you have to recognize that people are wrapped in their schedule. Their life is running at 100 miles an hour, and you're trying to stick a pin in their life and let them know that there is some opportunity available. So you need to be mindful of that. It's very important to know that. People will make prejudgments based on their own programming that's already stuck in their mind. People see the world mostly based on what they are experiencing in their life right now. And 9 out of 10 times, most people see the world based on how much money they are in fact earning. The amount of money you have, to a large extent, determines how you see the world. Whether you see the world as opportunity or whether you see the world as you just have to hustle. So we need to be mindful of that. Many of us now who are on this call have moved beyond that, and that we sometimes recognize that we know that we don't know. And hence the reason why we have the One Academy calls, which helps to bridge that gap, which helps you to understand that, okay, I don't know some of this financial terminologies, but I'm willing to learn. And that's the reason why we're on these calls, to be able to identify the areas that we are lagging in and where we need to beef up. You are not too old to learn. We have this facade, especially in the Caribbean, that when you leave school and you start to work, you have studied enough. Absolutely not. You've studied enough to get you a job, to be on the plantation. Now you have to study to come off the plantation by creating new habits. Because while majority of the world believes that the world is operating in a particular way, there is a small percentage of people, the 3%ers, who believe in opportunity and are making millions and millions of dollars. Why can't it be you? So it's important to understand this. Remember that luck will change in your favor with constant practice. I think I have a typo with the word practice. My apologies. But remember, if you continue, if you want luck, you have to change it. It will change in your favor with numbers. And we'll talk a little bit about that numbers game. Never sponsor someone you don't like. Many of us sponsor people simply because, well, I'll sponsor people, my next door neighbor, and it's all about numbers. You need to genuinely want to work with people. And that's some of the problems we develop in network marketing, that we're just so taken back with the amount of numbers that we forget that we're dealing with human beings, we're dealing with real people, we're dealing with relationships. According to Staffan, if you're not willing to have a pizza or have a coffee with them or sit and chat with them on a regular basis, well, then you should not bring them in your business, because you're going to be spending majority of your time with these people. And a successful business is based on your ability to professionally lime, as King James would rightfully say. We are sometimes professionally liming, and it's very important to associate yourself with right-minded people. Now, numbers don't lie. 3 meetings a day bring freedom your way. So if you really want to fast forward some of the challenges that you're already experiencing in your life, and you're doing what you need to do, what we already spoke about, you're developing the right habits, here is another way to fast forward that. Share the information with as much people as possible on a daily basis. 3 meetings doesn't mean that you have to share an entire hour with them. It could be a 5 minutes, it could be a 10 minutes, it could be a video, it could be any of those things. Share your story. As someone rightfully said, our former Blue Diamond said, how many times per day is the story of your company being shared? You need to go out there and share as much as possible, because it's a game of numbers. It's not about anything else. He or she who shares the most of the time wins, because of the Sinaloa effect. Many of us would know that term from Mr. Frank Ricketts. All right? Strength in numbers. So don't focus on the negatives in your life, because your brain does not understand negatives. Your mind will decide where you are. Your brain does not think in words. It thinks in pictures. For instance, if you have a situation where, okay, I want to stop smoking, you don't want to focus on the act of smoking because you're focusing too much on the negativity. And that short circuits your brain and gives your brain too much information that you somehow cannot fulfill what you want. But instead, you just want to create new habits. So it's really about changing the way in which you think, because society, especially the media, and I can say this because I've worked in the media, so I can tell you how the media actually operates. They sometimes, or in most of the cases, no offense to the media, of course, they play a significant role in educating people in some cases, but most of the time, we're already dealing with negative programming. And of course, if you live in Trinidad and Tobago and in some other countries, you realize that the news is sometimes not very pleasant in the first few hours of the morning. So you really don't want to be focusing too much on the negatives. Focus on the positives. But you might be saying, but isn't that being too naive, that there's stuff happening? Absolutely not. You need to control what you are receiving so that you now can process that information during the day. It's not that you're naive, you're going to know exactly what's taking place, but you need to control your own space. Because One Academites, you become what you think about most of the time. And many of us aren't aware that our thoughts are dictating the way in which we are attracting things into our lives. And we need to be mindful of that. We need to be mindful of the fact that what you think is what you are in fact attracting. So you can follow some of the key points in terms of attracting the right people to your business, but it starts with you. So if you work for someone, you will make a living, as Jim Rohn rightfully said. But if you work on yourself, you can make a fortune, because working on yourself, developing new skills, reading every day, because leaders are in fact readers. We'll discuss a little bit about the books that you should be reading. You need to read every single day, guys. You have 15 minutes in the day. Trust me, every single one on this call has 15 minutes. Read 15 minutes every single day. If you want to be a leader, if you want your income to change, well, then you have to change the things in your life. For things to change, you have to change. You can't talk about change and talk about the world unless you are also doing it yourself. And that's also very, very critical. So our main focus is to educate persons about getting as much coins in the next few months as possible. That is the mission here through our One Academy, to bridge that gap, to get as much people, how they can benefit from the ICO that's coming with OneCoin, how we can use these packages, because what these packages are, it's allowing you to participate in the ICO that's coming later this year. So this is your opportunity to promote the packages and to show people the importance of why the One Life Network, the OneCoin, really stands out above. And we have the right system in place, our One Academy, helping you to understand the language, so that now that you move from you know that you don't know to the know that you know, and you're developing real skills, real knowledge. So when you speak with authority, and you can represent the network eloquently. And that's really important. So our job is to put more coins in new persons' wallets ASAP. That is your mandate. Your mandate is to go out there and to show people we have an ICO coming, and we have a unique opportunity to help people create coins. The Deal Shaker is also another way in which you can do this. We're going to be talking about Deal Shaker later on this week, so stay tuned for much more of this information moving forward this week. Decide not to sell your OneCoins in October. Buy more and hold your position. We talked a lot about that in our One Academy sessions. Buy more, because we still don't have enough. As my upline King James said, Diamond King James, he said, we don't have enough coins. So you want to acquire and find more creative ways, especially to the Deal Shaker, where you can have those coins. If you can't get a higher package, well, work on the Deal Shaker. We do have things that are in place that you can, in fact, use to be able to take advantage of that. All right? And finally, he also said, it's what you want. What is it that you really want out of this? What was the purpose you joined One Life? You need to go back and define today what it is that you really want. What is it that will make a difference for you in your life, for your family? And once you've defined that, go for it. We do have the platform, we do have the mechanism, we do have the right tools, we do have the opportunity, we do have the leadership to make it happen. We have the right systems and support to make it happen. So at the end of the day, it's all about you. Success is not about anybody else. It's not about what's going on in the network. It's not about anything on that level. It's about you, how you see yourself in the world, and what it is that you want. So today, as we ending off this call, I want to ask you an important question. What it is, One Academites, that you really want. Write down 5 things during the course of today, and you'll share it with me tomorrow morning, that you want. You don't have to be specific, because you may not want to tell everybody what you want, but you can be general. Write down 5 things that you feel in the pit of your stomach, because if you don't feel it, you're not going to achieve it. All right? And that's what our Black Diamond, Mr. Staffan Liback, had to say as it relates to moving forward with our opportunity. All right? You need to decide what it is that you want. And if you decide what it is that you want, you can have it. And we have the right tools to make it happen. All right? And of course, Ruchen says that I have a short story to share, if I may, is one of my encouragements to all. Of course, Marine, you could probably unmute Ruchen's mic in about 1 minute's time. So One Academites, today is the beginning of a new day for you. Today is Monday. You don't have to have the blues on Monday now, because you start your morning with something positive, something that's meaningful that you can apply, something that you needed to remember. Create new habits today. And if you create new habits, they're like plants. They are going to grow wonderfully. They're going to bloom and create fruits, which you are very much going to be pleased of, together with your family and your friends, and you will be an inspiration to all. Have yourself a super fabulous day. Marine, this call back over to you.
Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you for such a great review. Thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Dwayne. And thanks to everyone who would have contributed through the chat box. All right, Rushan, I'm going to let you share. Our time is well past, but when you share, please share shortly. and then I will try to get one more person. Thank you. Go ahead, Rushin.
Good morning to all one academics. As Mr. Alpha Morton was speaking, it reminded me of one of the stories I came across while reading two books. As you said, reading is also important. So yes, I can agree to that because I'm reading two books in a week, and I said to myself, I want to read as much books as I can. So that is one of my goals. But as I came across the story, and the story is about a man who was walking on a cliff, and all of a sudden he loses his balance, slips, and falls off. Now, fortunately, he has the presence of mind to grab onto a ledge, to the ledge. He hanging there quite a time. So he calls out there, who can help me? Now, finally, voice came and the voice said, "This is God. I can help you. Just let go and trust me." Now, Staffan was like, "Are you kidding me?" And just let go in the cliff. Come on, man. Are you seriously? So he goes again and yells, "Is there anyone else who can help me?" Now, the story, what I'm trying to share with you guys is the lesson of this story. If you want to move to a higher level in life, you have to be willing to let go of some of your old ways of thinking and being and adapt new ones. It's like Mr. L said, if you want to reach a new level of life, you have to change. You have to let go of the old, some of the old ideas, some of the old habits that you had in life. So it is quite important to work on yourself, and self-development is to success also. So that was my story that I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you guys, I hope it could help and clarify a few pointers of the way of success, and to reach success is just what you need to do. Work on yourself, uh, 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 be disciplined, and reach your goals. Go straight to your goals. Don't be distracted. Don't lose track of it. Just stay focused. Thank you.
Thank you, Rujen. That's great encouragement. Oh, okay, I'm gonna get just one more person.
Maureen, actually, you could actually have Mr. Noel Emmanuel Jack wrap up the call because this morning he is on radio, so he could probably let everyone know what time again and the radio station that he's on.
All right, Noel, could you try to unmute your mic because I'm trying and I'm not, and it's not happening for me. So could you try that, please?
Okay, good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear, Noel. Go ahead.
Right, good morning to everyone. Good morning, Larry, Mr. Alvin, Dwayne, all One Academites. Thank you very much this morning for this call. It's so impressive. It is so practical. The One Academy, put in a pragmatic sense, how we can utilize our time more efficiently, our skills, our talents, our sphere of influence, our energies. And I just want to reiterate what Larry was talking about in regards to like planting your own food. It is so much better, you get a lot of organic nutrients into your body that was going to impact your health tremendously. Concerning the program this morning, we are on WAC Radio. We are Culture Crazy Radio 90.1 FM. 90.1 FM in Trinidad and Tobago, and the program starts at 10:05 a.m. 10:05 a.m. The name of the program is The World of Cryptocurrency. And of course, we talked about cryptocurrency, we talk about the blockchain technology, we talk about the Deal Shaker program, we talk, of course, about money-wise investments and so on. We have also with us on that program, most likely this morning, our diamond consultant, Mr. Ivan Mack. He usually shared the program with me, and very soon you're going to be bringing on more individuals to express themselves, express their understanding and their training and their level of understanding concerning cryptocurrency. So I greet everybody in the wonderful name of Jesus Christ, and I thank you all for being on this call. God richly bless you all. Have a great and fantastic day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Noel. So hopefully everyone would try to tune in and get others to as well. What a tremendous call, as I said before. Thank every one of you for being on the call. We know it's a big sacrifice. We appreciate you. This morning we happened to go to about 30 people, I think. Yeah, we went to that amount. So please remember to remind people, some friends, family, to get on the call so they can get this practical information. And without any further ado, we've gone past our time. I just want to say, have a beautiful, wonderful, and productive One Life day. Continue to share. I'm ending the call right now. Bye-bye. Have a great day.